Fresh from the Thanksgiving holiday, CNN 10 is back. We are World News explained in 10 minutes, and I'm Carl Azus. It's good to be with you this Monday. There's been a major change in the southern African nation of Zimbabwe. Its former president, Robert Mugabe, resigned last week. He'd been in power since 1980, and he'd held on as president despite instituting policies that ruined the nation's economy. Extensive corruption, mismanagement of industries, food shortages, they're all part of Zimbabwe's struggles. But after President Mugabe fired his vice president earlier this month, other officials were afraid he was paving the way for his wife, Grace Mugabe, to take over. She's also a controversial figure in Zimbabwe. The military then took control in the nation's capital, and though it denied there was a coup, President Mugabe eventually resigned. His former vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, returned last week and took over as Zimbabwe's interim leader. Mnangagwa made it clear he was part of the operation to unseat Mugabe, but he praised Mugabe in his speech, calling him a father, a mentor, and a leader, and urging Zimbabweans to let bygones be bygones. New President Mnangagwa promised to protect Zimbabweans' rights and to push for solutions to the nation's problems. But partly because he's a longtime ally of Mugabe, some of Mnangagwa's critics doubt that he'll be much different than his predecessor. Still, on the streets of the capital, there are signs of optimism.
This is the night freedom returned. So hope Zimbabweans as they took in Robert Mugabe's resignation. They stepped out, embracing a fresh beginning. The men in uniform became the focus of their surging affection. One was even carried on the shoulders of the ecstatic crowd. The morning after the night before, Wednesday, it was back to a relatively normal life, with the nagging question, how different will the future actually be?
I've got a very big hope to the change of Zimbabwe. Everything is going to change here in Zimbabwe. We are going to have jobs. We didn't have jobs. Everything, schools, even our currents, it was very down.
Let's come together and support him. At least let's give him his time to do whatever he's going to do.
And for now, this is the man leading Zimbabwe. Emmerson Mnangagwa arrived at the ruling party's headquarters to cheering crowds. He reassured Zimbabweans he is the man to lead them into that future.
Today, we are witnessing the beginning of a new unfolding democracy. Yes. We want to grow our economy. Yes. We want peace in our country. Yes. We want jobs. Yes.
Mnangagwa will be in power until elections are held in 2018. It is the nation's hope that the freedoms enjoyed as Mugabe left political life will be valued by the new leader. Farai Sevenzo, CNN, Harare.
The president of Egypt is promising to respond to a recent terrorist attack with, quote, brute force. What happened there on Friday is believed to be the deadliest terror assault in Egypt's history. As many as 30 gunmen wearing military uniforms targeted a mosque in the nation's Sinai Peninsula. This is an area of eastern Egypt where the country's military is attacked almost daily by people affiliated with the ISIS terrorist group. In Friday's attack, 305 worshippers were killed and 128 others were wounded. The mosque that was targeted is known as the birthplace of an important Sufi religious leader. Sufism is a branch of Islam that some Muslim fundamentalists disagree with. An Egyptian official says at least one of the attackers was carrying an ISIS flag, though the group hasn't yet said it was responsible. A local volunteer says people in the community rushed to donate blood to help the victims. The day after the attack, Egyptian warplanes targeted what the country described as terrorist outposts, places containing weapons, ammunition, and terrorists themselves. Next today, we've told you how the demilitarized zone that separates North and South Korea is actually one of the most heavily militarized borders on Earth. Our knowledge of life on the north side of that border is limited. The communist North Korean government has strict controls over everything from the media to the military. But we're learning more about what it's like following the defection, the escape of a North Korean soldier across the border. He was shot several times and lost more than half his blood. He's undergone several surgeries in South Korea, and doctors found dozens of parasites inside his body. That may indicate bad hygiene and nutrition in North Korea's military. Following the soldier's escape and survival, the North is making changes along the DMZ.
They were just a few feet behind him. They fired more than 40 bullets, but failed to kill or capture him. And tonight, the North Korean soldiers who couldn't keep their comrade from pulling off a dramatic escape last week are facing the fallout. A South Korean lawmaker tells CNN nearly all the North Korean soldiers present along the border that day have been replaced. Human rights observers say being replaced could be the least of their worries.
What's their most likely fate?
They will be investigated by the Military Security Command, possibly by the State Security Department as well, which is the North Korean Gestapo. It is very likely that torture will be involved in the pre-trial investigation, if there is going to be a trial. It's most likely that they will be charged with treason.
Analysts say the North Korean soldiers' dash across the border, with every compelling sequence captured on closed-circuit footage, was such a humiliation for Kim's regime that the repercussions could be felt among Kim's top generals as well.
I think the fallout will go higher up to a commanding person who were not able to stop from this happening, because this is very high-profile defection. It's very embarrassing for the Kim regime.
Experts say the commanders of these units could be sent to labor camps, could be demoted or sent for re-education. Another measure the regime is taking to prevent this from happening again, North Korean workers were seen digging a trench at the spot where the soldier made a run for it. Meantime, the South Korean soldiers who risked gunfire to crawl to the North Korean and drag him to safety have been given medals for their bravery. The 24-year-old at the center of all this is now off life support, his doctors say, is out of the ICU, but is still suffering psychological trauma.
Last night, that he had a dream that he was kidnapped to North Korea again.
Dr. Lee Cook-jong says he's had to reassure the young man that he's safe.
10-second trivia. What country has more volcanoes than any other nation on Earth? Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, or Mexico? According to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, Indonesia tops the list of nations with the most volcanoes. More than 24,000 people and dozens of airplanes have been ordered to get out of the way because Mount Agung is blowing its top. The volcano is located in the Pacific island nation of Indonesia. It erupted 3 times on Saturday alone and more on Sunday. It sent a thick cloud of ash several miles into the air. Indonesia's government advised anyone within about 4.5 miles of the volcano's peak to evacuate, and 24,000 people did. As the ash cloud drifted east over the island nation, one airport was temporarily closed, and thousands of airline passengers were stranded after their flights were canceled. The ash can melt if it's sucked into plane engines, so pilots are told not to fly through it. In some areas where ash is falling, residents were given masks to help them breathe. The Christmas time tradition of making gingerbread houses is believed to date back to Germany in the 1500s. But America's National Gingerbread House Competition dates back to Asheville, North Carolina in 1992. Today, it's grown to include 170 entries from the U.S. and Canada. The sweet creations are judged on how they look, how creative they are, and how hard they were to cook up. How do judges take on such a delicious responsibility? Gingerly. I'm sure there are moments when they wonder if they can Hansel all the competition, and there are probably also moments of regrettal. Winning is the icing on the cake, but losing, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. At least you still get your just desserts. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10.